This is Off the 11th Hour, and I'm your host, Nathaniel Stone, but we all know who the Lord of Hosts is. Say it with me in any dialect you so choose. Yahuwah Sabaoth. Kodesh brothers and sisters, fellow members in the body of Messiah, and those in the world, thank you for giving me your attention in a world full of distractions. This is Season 2, Episode 14. Wow, we are really moving along here in this series. This is going to be a standalone episode. Thank you for tuning in. I wanted to share the ability for people to be able to do some deep study on their own. I want people to be able to check my math, so to speak, check my work, so to speak. But most importantly, I want to give you the ability to be able to do your own deep study. This is how I learned Hebrew. This is how I got to know the language more and more. Well, first I memorized the Aleph Bet. Well, let me rephrase that. First, I connected into the Ruach Kodesh, the Holy Spirit. That's a Hebrew word for Holy Spirit. And then, I had asked to learn this so that I could learn deeper. And these tools, over time and studying, as I accumulated a skill that this person taught me, or that person, or something that I learned on my own, all through the guidance of the Ruach Kodesh. Now I want to share some of these things that were given to me, because when I first came into this Torah walk, or just first came into studying scriptures, I didn't have this ability. I didn't have this understanding. So I couldn't really get into maybe the depth of things. Like in my first year, my first cycle in this Torah walk, this Hebraic understanding, I got stuck on a few things. And the things that I got stuck on was actually in bad translations. Like, I'll give you, for instance, Passover. I was trying to study, how Passover is observed. And was the Last Supper a Passover meal or not? And in that deep study, I kind of got stuck because I saw the scripture saying conflicting things, and I knew that it wasn't conflicted, so I knew that there was something wrong with my understanding. And then after I got an upgrade in being able to get into the Interlinear, I was able to get to the bottom of these questions, get to the root of the problem, and see where some mistranslations were. So I want to move right along here because I don't want to take too long on this. This shouldn't take too long, but I want to first share a study program that I have. I'm going to go over two. eSword. Now I'm working with a MacBook Pro, so I believe that if you're using PC, it might be called MySword. I know that eSword on an iOS device, eSword on an iPhone. If you do get eSword on an iPhone, make sure you get eSword LT. It's like $2.99 and it's a one-time fee. You got to get it. Pay the extra $3 for the LT. It's the Pro version. Wow, it's absolutely amazing. I wish that maybe in study sessions in another series, part 2, I don't yet know how to interface my computer into this program yet. I'm still learning. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff, by the way. This program that I have that's behind the scenes that is doing all of these video graphics, like for instance this graphics here that you see on the beach that I have, or other motion backgrounds. Here I have kind of going deeper into the waves, and then we have moving water. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff 9 months ago, even less than that. I got this program back in December of last year, December of 2021, and I've been learning this program. So I'm new to the behind the scenes program, but I don't yet know how to interface my phone into it. So maybe in another session I'll share with the phone. I'm a little bit more familiar with this program I'm about to show you with the phone, but this is eSword on a computer, and I would definitely recommend getting the upgraded version. I got the LT version for my computer. You can set all sorts of notes. Again, I'm a little bit more familiar with eSword on my phone, but let's go ahead and get into this eSword. Now, the eSword, it comes with a Interlinear, And I would call this interlinear I dub it a B grade interlinear. So let me kind of come here so you can see me. I dub this a B grade interlinear, and the reason why, let's look at this here. So wherever I click a verse, you can see how the verse comes down here, and then I have that particular verse that is highlighted. And so any verse that I highlighted only does one verse at a time, and then right next to here you have the Strong's numbers that are there. Let me see if I can get a little bit of a more blown up shot here for you. You can see the Strong numbers that are here, and then you can click on each individual number, and it tells you each individual number. What a Strong's concordance is Strong's is a man, so it's a man-made system. There are some problems with a man-made system. I'm going to show you here later on in this video some problems with it, but ultimately it's a great system to have. It's a good stepping stone. It's an excellent stepping stone. Just like chapters and verses are not actually found in the original writings. This is a man-made system. Chapter 1, chapter 2, verse 25, verse 46. These are man-made systems that we have for being able to navigate quickly. One issue, and again, I think it's great to have chapters and verses. We should have this, but one issue is sometimes when there's chapters like chapter 3 and chapter 4, sometimes we don't realize that those chapters are actually one continuous letter, and so sometimes we don't get the context proper, or something at the end of chapter 3 and the beginning of chapter 4, they go together because it's all one continuous letter. So if we're reading like chapter 1 or chapter 4 verse 1, make sure you go check out chapter 3 at the very end there. Not so much with some of the prophecy scriptures, some of the like Isaiah or Jeremiah, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu in Hebrew, not so much with some prophecy things, but in things like in Kings, in the book of Kings, or in like maybe like the gospel accounts, especially in like Paul's writings. You got to use it for Paul's writings. Paul's writings are one continuous letter. So make sure if you're reading Paul's letters that you got to make sure that you check out the chapters, read the whole thing. Paul is a wordsmith. He is an engineer of words, and when he writes something, it is meticulously weighed out. It is meticulously written like a structure. If you change one little piece or you forget one little piece, it can change the whole design. It's like mathematics. If you make a mistake early on in the equation, the end result is going to be completely different than what it's supposed to be. So with Paul's writings, you got to do that, especially with a lot of things too. Anyway, so but what I'm saying is that this man-made system ultimately is great. Chapters and verses, it's a very useful tool. So I would say we need to keep it. It just make sure that you're warned that there is that issue. Now I'm going to say the same thing with Strong's numbers. So Strong's numbers are great. So Strong's is a man, and he came up with a numbered system. So H is for Hebrew, A is Aramaic, and G is for Greek. So if it's like number, like here, and I have this clicked up, 1961 Haya. That's Hey Yod Hey. Let me see if I can pull this up in the big screen. And it means I can't do it. Sorry, I'll have to. I can't blow this up any bigger than that. So this is about the biggest that I can get here. So in Strong's 1961, you have Haya, and they are alphabetical. And so what it will do is it will show you in the interlinear. Let me kind of come down here. It'll tell you how many times it appears in the scriptures. So here it says that it appears 1,162 times in the scriptures, and it tells you each word that is translated as. So here is translated Hayaz come as come 136 times. It's translated as had 83 times, so on and so forth. So this system, this Strong system, is a great system to have. It's alphabetical. So like Strong's number H1 would be like the letter A, and then like when it gets deeper on, like maybe in the letter Z, you might get into like, the thousands that are there. So it's alphabetical. So the Strong's numbers themselves are alphabetical. Now, An issue that I'm gonna let you know about these Strong's numbers, and we're gonna get. I'll show you. I have a selected verse to show you later on. Is that they're based off of the Nakud, which is the vowel pointing system. This Nakud are the little dots above and below the Hebrew writing, namely for Hebrew and in Aramaic. So this Nakud system, it didn't appear until like 700 years, until after Messiah died, resurrected, and ascended. And my issue with the Nakud system is that it seems that they changed the dialect around. Let me rephrase that. They changed the dialect around, according to my opinion. That's why I said it seems, because I want to, some people might disagree with that. That's okay. I disagree with disagreeing with me on that particular point. But I do welcome your own opinions on that, and go do your own research and check that out, on your own, and come to your own conclusion through prayer, through the Ruach Kodesh, of whether you think the Nakud system is original or not. However, it does have some uses. So, but my issue with the Nakud system is they broke up words that I don't think maybe should be broken up. So you can have a word that is written the same way, and sometimes they'll have 3 different, 4, 5 different Strong's numbers. Other issues with the Strong systems, and I can show you actually in, let me think what episode that I'll show you in. I'm going to show you in the Camouflage Sos episode. I don't know if it's going to be part 1 or part 2, but it's going to be somewhere in there. I'll explain to you that issue there. But anyways, to kind of cut to the chase is that sometimes the Strong's numbers that appear, let's say, H1961, it's found written in different ways. So, it'll be like, have completely different letters, almost like not even like the same root word in a lot of cases. It'll have like completely different root words, like practically, and it really kind of gets confusing when you start getting into the Hebrew with the Strong's numbers and that aspect. But to keep things simple, it's a good system to start out in, as long as you realize that there are some flaws in the system, and that it is a tool meant to go deeper, but even in going deeper with this tool, there are some problems with the tool. So you got to stay prayed up on it. You got to stay armored up on it, and ask and you shall receive. And if it's in the Father's will, He'll open your eyes on something. And I'm going to show you later on in this. So let's get back into the. Let me get a different screen here. Into this. So what you can do here in eSword is you can switch between different Bible translations that you have. I have ISR, but I can switch between, say, like King James, and now it'll switch over here to King James. Now, this down here, this interlinear, this is always King James. So that's why I don't really use King James. I usually like to use something that's maybe not polar different from the King James, but is, vastly different. I like to use different scripture translations when I do studying to have parallel comparisons. Here, for instance, you can hit the word compare, and in all the Bible translations that you have downloaded, here is the same verse. So what I can do is I can go here, and let's say I want to do 1:3. So I hit Genesis 1:3, highlight this verse, make sure it's highlighted. Then I hit compare, and now it's going to compare all of Genesis 1:3. You see up here where I hit the word compare, and it's going to highlight all of Genesis 1:3 in all the translations that I have downloaded. Here is, Greek Old Testament, Tree of Life version here, Young's literal translation, Brenton, and the different translations that I have here. I can also hit it, and I have parallel. I can open this up further. I think that's all the further it goes up. And I can hit parallel and then have different parallel. But this gets a little bit confusing in this. It would be better if I had parallel only like a few translations that was in there. Now, when I want to go to different Bible or different chapters, books and chapters, it's all down here on this bar. Now, what I really like is let me pick one that I already have done. First Chronicles chapter 23, and then in verse 30. So you see how I have this highlighted here? I can highlight and color code things. So all I got to do is I just basically highlight the verse as you would highlight regular text, and then you can right click, and then you can add a highlight or remove a highlight. I'm not going to add a highlight. I'll add one here. So see how it's green, and then you can double click, and then you go back to highlight, and then you can go ahead and remove highlight. Let me come here to the full screen. I'll pull my camera off here, and when you come to the full screen, you know, when you go to different Bible versions, you can pull this down, and then you need to select which versions that you want to download. And then when you go to the lexicon, you have to download and you gotta do this in order to get the study mode on here. You gotta download the different lexicons that are there, and then after you download them, you can go ahead and click the button here and to select them so that they appear. And when you select all of these, see a Strong's Hebrew, Ancient Hebrew, Brown Driver Briggs, King James, Concordance, and then Thayer's Greek definitions. Once you have all of those there, then when I click on this, you see how I have Strong's here, Brown Driver Briggs, and now I have the King James Concordance, and it's a big one. So then different ones will have a different related pieces. Then once you have this open here, it'll tell you from the same as this. So you can start researching root words here. So see David, the root word for David. Was that David? I believe so. Let me double check. Yeah. So the root word for David, or Daoud, depending on your dialect here, that you have in H1730 comes from H1732. See how they're really close? Because this is written Dalet Ua Dalet, Daoud, David, right? Or Dalet Ua Yod Dalet, which is, you know, however you want to pronounce that dialect wise. So then you come over here and hit the root, and then you have almost the same word. Look at this, dalet, ua, dalet, or just dalet, and it tells you, excuse me, and then it tells you the root word and what the root word means. So this root word, beloved, loved, or uncle, beloved, or love in plural, abstract, and then it tells you that how many times it's translated. So it's beloved in 31 spots, uncle in 10 spots, loved, beloved, and then it basically tells you the root word that is there. So like here, if I click here, and I want to do the root word for to thank, we have this word here, yada. Now this word yada or awada we're going to cover in the camouflage Sos episode. This is the root word for Judah or Yahuda that you have there, and then we can get into that later. So you can click in there and see the root words and go deeper in studying and understanding. And the nice thing about this is let's say there is kind of like more of a rare word, and so if there's maybe more of a rare word, and you want to find how many times a rare word here. This just popped in my mind. Let's go into Greek, and so if you want to find like a more of a rare word, I want to go into Revelation 18. We're going to kind of come down here, 18:23. And let's look at this word sorceries that is here, and then this word pharmakia. And so if you want to see how pharmakia is used elsewhere, well, it's found in 3 spots here. And then you can see it's found in 3 spots. And then you can see maybe if it's talking about something else somewhere else and get more definition, get more understanding on it. But you got to remember, when you download the LT, you need to download the different Bible versions that are there. So, and then after you download different Bible versions, then also download different lexicons, and then you need to put it into study mode. And when you turn on that study mode is when you get this interlinear down here. So now let's get into kind of The other one that I want to share, I really like eSword. I wish I could show you on my phone. I know how to navigate it a little bit more on my phone. So maybe in season 3, I'm not going to have time in season 2 to show you, but in season 3, I will show you. I'll try to get my phone interface with this, and I'll show you on your phone. I use this for witnessing. I'm telling you, when I use my phone, mobile eSword LT, I have a Spanish version, or I'll have like a Portuguese version, or I'll have like, I don't know, any language. I can even download it on the fly. So if I'm talking to someone and they don't speak English, or they're not that's not like they're fluent. They're not fluent in that language. I know where these verses are at, and then I'm trying to talk about. And if I feel led, I can switch to say Spanish. And if someone's talking Spanish and I feel led, the Ruach tells me to go talk to that person, I can maybe talk to them through just pointing scripture verses. And I know, through Spanish, I can tell pretty much what certain words are, and I can show to them certain words, and then I can link that with other scripture verses, and then try to make connections as I can, and try to talk in a few minutes that I have, or however long I have to be able to talk with that individual. Or if I'm at an event or something and this person, we have a little bit more time, I can share different verses maybe with the translator, and we can kind of bridge the language gap with my phone. It's very, very useful to have. And I also like it in my phone that I can navigate and move around really quickly. It really, really helps me to where if I'm in a study group with a bunch of mishpachah, a bunch of family, believers, whether any group that it is, I can quickly pull up. I can type in like keywords. Oh, I didn't show you this. Not this one. This one. I can hit here in search. I'm glad I remembered. I can hit here in the search bar, and let me think of a word that I want to find. I'm in ISR, so I got to kind of think. Let me find the word continual, I guess. Well, I'll find the word prayer. So I just type the word prayer in, and then it gives me every single location where it says prayer. Now, if I just click Old Testament, it'll only bring up Old Testament. And if I bring in New Testament, it'll only bring New Testament. But since I was in the book of Revelation, I can hit the word Revelation, and the word prayer is not found anywhere in the book of Revelation. Now, if I want to, let me think of a specific, if I want to type in the word messenger. Now, remember, I'm in the ISR. So messenger is the word for malach in Hebrew, angel. Now it is sensitive. So if I have messenger, now if I have, and I put it in the book of Revelation, notice it's only in the book of Revelation. Notice if I hit messengers and hit enter, it's a different list. So you got to be specific. So, sometimes in ISR, it's a little bit of an advanced book, scripture book. So let's say I don't know exactly how Jeroboam is written in the scripture. So if I just say Jeroboam in here and type that in, now obviously it wouldn't be in that here. See, it's not in, Jeroboam is not found in ISR. But if I switch to, say, ESV, and then I go ahead and then hit search, and then hit Jeroboam, look at, there it is. So see, sometimes you got to remember how it's spelled exactly, how it's written exactly, which is why sometimes if I can't remember how ISR has it especially written, I might remember how it is in maybe King James or ESV, that's English Standard Version. And then I can write it down, and then I can look for it in there. And then go through, and then Jeroboam, this is all the spots in Jeroboam throughout all the Old Testament. Is it in the New Testament? Not even in the New Testament. That is there. So that's what really good. You can also go into any word or also phrases that are there. So if I wanted to write prayer of the, and then look at that. It'll pick up prayer of the. Now I can hit any words, and it'll or just a phrase. What it's loading here, but it's not there. But then it's not liking that. It's kind of delaying on me here. Anyway, so that's basically where I'm at with eSword. I wanted to show you that, and then you can also pull up history that is there also. So let's go into the next portion here, and flick back over here to get over here to this. Now let's go over to this section here. I think this is great. Now I'll put the description here. This is BibleHub.com. I'll put all this information, just, eSword, LT, and I'll put a little description there in the description box here on YouTube. And then here is BibleHub.com that is there. Now, BibleHub.com is great. It has an A grade interlinear from what I found. Especially in the Old Testament, is a really, really good tool to have. So, but here in BibleHub.com, you can see here, all up here, these are different translations. So you can switch between different translations. So like say, I have ISR switched, and then you have, I have Genesis 1:1 pulled up. Now, if I want to go to a different book, I go to a different book, and then I can select a different book, and then it goes to the first chapter of that particular book, Acts 1. Now, if I want to go to a different chapter, then I have to go to the chapter. So first you have to select the book, and then you have to select the chapter that is there. And then you can also use from this list, which is here, which is more than just what the tabs have. And this is all the different scripture translations that they have on the website, which is more than just what's in this tab. Now, if you click this tab here for Interlinear, and then you click that, you'll come to a page that, no, not that one. Let me explain. Well, let me do that first here. Let's go, first you can go to parallel. Now let's go to like a parallel, and what it'll do is it will parallel Acts 1:1. Now it's verse specific. So now you can see, let me zoom in here for you. So now what you can do is you can see this is Acts 1:1, then 2, 3, 4, 5. So whatever verse that I want to select, let's select Acts 1:6. And then what it will do here in Acts 1:6 is it will give you a parallel of a whole bunch of scripture translations. So here is the NIV, the New Living Translation, and it's the same, and it's all a bunch of different translations of the same verse. So that's really useful if you're stuck on a certain verse, or you want to get a different perspective, or you want to get some depth on it, you want to gain a deeper understanding. I would obviously suggest to go to the Interlinear, to go and look at the root words, and to go deeper in like a word study. But this is also useful in its own, because you can get a different understandings of the same verse. So now I want to pick a verse out to show you a verse. To sometimes you'll get confusion in here, and there is no confusion. He is not the Elohim, the God of disorder. He's the Elohim, and not the God of confusion, but the Elohim, the God of order. So if there is an issue with the verse, there's a problem with the translators, with the translation, and this is where Proverbs chapter 25:2, it's the glory of kings to search out a matter, and the glory of the Lord, the glory of Yahuwah to conceal it, right? So this is where gold digging, right? A lot of times you don't find gold on the surface. Sometimes you do. In the scriptures you'll find gold on the surface, but sometimes to get those really nice nuggets of gold, you got to dig for them. Now, someone once told me, I heard this once, so I'm going to put it in my own words, is that you might get disheartened of why would the Creator allow His word to be corrupted, the word that we have, the living word, to be corrupted. Well, it's all for his esteem and the esteem that he gives his kings, his children, the children of Elohim, the children of God. He essentially gives it for us to do, which is something that is esteem. This is glorious for us to do, but then we give this glory to the Most High this is His righteousness, His beauty that He's given us. So I'm trying to remember the word for glory. I'm trying to remember. Kabod, I think it's kabod, that is there. So we get this kabod, and then, but it's ultimately his kabod, for his glory for this. But, don't get disheartened, because the enemy corrupted a verse, a location. I find that certain, and this is what someone had told me, that certain scripture verses have been allowed to be corrupted, so that the children that do studying, the elect, when they go over that, something doesn't jive right with them, and they start digging. The Princess and the Pea, if you know that old story, there's a discrepancy that doesn't seem to connect with scriptures. There's something wrong there. They can't quite put their finger on it, and then eventually, when the time comes, they're able to realize that they need to do some digging. They do some digging on this matter, and they find that there's a flaw that's there, and then they extract that flaw, and then they find that there's some gold that's under there, and then they're able to set that verse to properly translated, and then in setting that verse to properly translated, they have a deeper understanding of a verse to where they never would have been able to go that deep, or never would have gone that deep if they wouldn't have seen an issue, if it wouldn't have been mistranslated in the first place. So the enemy, by trying to hide a matter, or Yahuwah hiding a matter, which is not the enemy, whether it is Yahuwah ultimately allows these things to happen, and I do believe that certain translations are manipulated. We're going to cover that at the very end in the pearl that I share of don't cast pearls before swine. I don't want to reveal exactly what that is, but man-made. There I believe that there are sometimes unintentional mistakes in scriptures, and I believe that there are intentional mistakes in scriptures. An intentional mistake in scriptures, I believe, is removing of his set-apart name out. However you want to pronounce it. Yahweh, Yehovah, Jehovah, Yahuwah, however you want to pronounce his set-apart name, at least the people that are pronouncing the name recognize that that is a name that is there and not a title. And so that is a manipulated and intentional mistranslation in scriptures. If you count Old Testament quotes found in the New Testament, his set-apart name is over 7,000 times in the scriptures, and they did that mistake intentionally. Mistake. It's not a mistake if you do it intentional. They did that. That sin. I believe it's a sin to add or change from the scriptures. We're told that in 3 or 4 spots. One in Proverbs, one in Revelation. I believe one in Psalms, and definitely one in Deuteronomy. I think Deuteronomy 12:32 says this. Anyways. And so, whether the Father, ultimately allows this, or man through satanic influence or just his own mistakes mistranslates something, if that wouldn't have been there, then that person that uncovers that secret wouldn't have had that deep of an understanding. So let's share one of those here that I find to be one of those points I wanna point out, and then we'll go ahead and close off the session here. So this is on Compare version, Psalms 81:3. So I clicked the word parallel after I highlighted Psalms 81:3, and then I clicked the word parallel. So let's see some different translations of the same verse. The NIV says, "Sound the ram's horn at the new moon, and when the moon is full," take note of this word, full, when the moon is full on the day of our festival. Let's see ESV, "Blow the trumpet at the new moon." So here we have trumpet, and then here we have ram's horn. So that's a variation. Is it ram's horn or is it trumpet? At the new moon, that is the same. This says sound, this says blow. Not a big difference between sound and blow, but I do think that there is a difference between ram's horn and trumpet, but regardless, let's move forward. This one says a comma comma at the full moon, and this is, just at the full moon. So grammar, not big of a difference here. And this says, and when the moon is full, and then this says at the full moon. And then this says on our feast day, and this says on the day of our festival. So pretty close there. I'd say the only big difference between the two is ram's horn and trumpet. And so let's maybe see in King James, blow up the trumpet. So now again, you have trumpet here, but you have ram's horn in NIV. Blow up, about the same as blow or sound. In the new moon, this says in the new moon. The other one say at the new moon. That could be a little bit of a difference there. And then this says in the time appointed. So now it's not having anything with full moon. It just says in the time appointed, and then on our solemn feast day. So now they've added the word solemn that is there, but you still have feast day. Excuse me. So let's look at maybe, let me try to see if I see anything that stands out. On the day of our feasts, so this one is plural feasts. This has the word glorious. So where'd they get the word glorious at? I'd like to see where they got. And then this one has the word celebrate. Where do they, celebrate when the moon is full and start the new moon festival? So this one's saying that the new moon is a festival, how they're translating it. Let me see here. I want to get down to ISR. Well, it's okay. I can go into ISR directly. So let's look at ISR here and what the ISR says. And the ISR says, blow the ram's horn. So now you have ram's horn at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our festival day. So we have, and sometimes what you'll find, what's interesting here is sometimes if you have like an actual paper version, I know that in the restored scriptures, True Name version, True Name edition, I know that in version 3, the third edition, he has a bullet point and he gives you two different translations of the same verse. So the same book will give you two different translations, and then he changed it back to a different one in the 5th version. So we got different versions of there. So let's go into now the Interlinear. So what I did is I already had this loaded. So I was on Psalms 81:3 and I clicked the word Interlinear. So now let's look at Interlinear, and then we're going to get to see some of the Strong's issues that there are. So I have so in Hebrew is written right to left, and so these are. Gotta go blow this up a little bit more. These are the nakud that I was telling you about. You see the little dot, so the dot in here, this is the nakud that is there. This is actually not found in ancient Hebrew texts. These little dots here and this little L shape here, the 3 dots here. This is the nakud system. And so Hebrew's written right to left. So we have the root word here, teku. Now this uwa is after, this is not a prefix, but it's like a suffix. And so the root word here that we have is tha, and then kof, and then ayin is the root word that we have. And then that would be for the word blow. I don't have an issue with the word blow or sound. It's about the same here. Now this says at the time of the new moon. Now, a lot of people would argue and they would say that, well, the word for moon is yarach, and they are right. The word for moon is yarach in Hebrew. So the word moon is technically not here. Now, I would argue, and this is a different point, and for those of you that, by the way, I want to tell you, this is what I call the moon key, not the monkey, but the moon key. And this, to me, as I understand, this is the key to understanding the moon and the functionality of the moon, of the demarcation point of a moon. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time here in season 2 to go over some calendar things that I have to share. Everyone's got a calendar study, right? Yeah, I got my own too. Hopefully it's not my own. Hopefully it came from above, and I'm sharing things accurately. But I do have things to share on calendar. Don't know if I'm going to get to them on season 2. However, what I do want to share is that faithful in small things, faithful in big things. So you have a day, you have a month, and you have a year. And from what I find is that there is the details are different, but the similarities between the day, the month, and the year are the same. But, some people would say that the moon is not connected to what we call month. And I, in a different study, can share why I disagree, and I can share, my research, why I believe that the month is connected into the moon, the cycle of the moon. I think the biggest piece of evidence is Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 16, the greater and lesser lights, and to rule, the day and the night. And that lesser light that rules the night, but is a greater lesser light. There's only 2 greater, lights in the sky. You have the sun, and then you have the moon. And then after that, you just have a bunch of, what we call stars. So whether it's a planet or a star, not to get too, in the minutia of that, but basically there's only 2 great lights in the sky, the sun and the moon, and they are, to rule the day and the night. Well, the sun rules the day, and when the sun isn't there, the moon, when it is up in the sky, rules the night. I think that's the biggest piece of evidence, but there's more than just that. But to get back at the moon key here, this word here for Chodesh, the root word is Chet Dalet Shin, and now this prefix here is bet. Now this bet that you get here, that's where you get the word for at. Bet can be at, on, or in, that you can have in front of a word that is there, and then you have the root word Chet Dalet Shin. You can see the Strong's number here is 2320, and then you have ba. Now this little dot under the H represents the Chet, and so it's ba Chodesh. Now this little arrow here on the S is SH. Shin, I believe, always has an SH sound. That's why it is Shabbath that is there, not Sabbath, right? It's not a samech, it's a shin that is there. We can get into that at a later point in time in some dialect studies, but here's where I want to show you an issue in Strong's number. So what we can do in using in Bible Hub, this is, you can click on the number itself. So when you click on the number itself, here is that number, 2320, and it'll give you all the times that it is translated. Now, when you look here, you have month translated as 204 times, month and months 1, month throughout the months 2, months plural 3, new moon is 17 times, and then new moons is 9 times. And then you can go down here and read, just a bunch of data that they have shared with different verses that they have connected, and then you can have a monthly or new moon, and now you see here, it says from Chadash, and then see Hebrew Chadash. Well, we're going to go there here momentarily, but here on this screen over here, they give you like little snippets, and then you can see in the Hebrew, and then you can see the root word for each one. This one is Lamed, so this would be like, leading into the month, and then, so on and so forth. You see here how he has a yod mem for im, and so you have chodeshim for plural, and that's why the word here is months in plural, because you have a im in plural that is here. So when you do that, what I like is that this is chodesh. Now if you notice here, it is written here in the original word Chet Dalet Shin as the root word. That is not always right. I can get into that in the camouflage sos with the word yada, but the root word for Judah. But here we have Chodesh. I'm going to click this little arrow here. This little arrow here will bring me to the other Strong's number next to it. And you can click all the way down 2,319 times to get you to the first Strong's number if you want to see the first Strong's number in Hebrew. Mind you, this is Hebrew, the Hebrew Interlinear. So here we have the word Chadash. Now Chadash, Hit Dalet Shin, spelt the same way, and they have it as new. So you have here the same word, Chodesh, and this in different Nakud vowel points, but Chodesh is translated as new moon and a month here, but then that same word, Chet Dalet Shin, different Nakud, different Strong's number, is now the word for new, and it'll tell you different. Look at this. So a new king arose. So it's not going to tell you that a month arose through context, and then you should present a new grain offering. It's not telling you to present a monthly grain offering. It's and when you read these things in context, out of the old because of the new, and then you can see a different, that he has built a new house, right? It's just that you build a new house, and so it's not calling it a monthly house. It's a new house. So through context, we know that it is new, that is there. But then let's click on the next Strong's number over, and then you have the same thing, Chadash again, but Strong's 2318, and it's to renew or to repair. Now this one is the one I want to show you. So you have renew, renewed, repair, restore, restored. So I believe that when you do some research on this word Chadash, and you look at that word, let me kind of get back to where we're at so that I can get back to, just give me a moment here. Here we go. When we get back to here, and this is that verse again, Psalms 81:3. Now, I believe that this helps us to understand, let me expand this a little bigger here. This helps us to understand with Ba Chodesh that this root word, Chadash, Chodesh, however you want to pronounce that in Strong's, is definitely talking about a month, but a synonym of it in Strong's 2319 and Strong's 2320 that I just showed you, Chadash, it is new or renew. Now, if you have the understanding that this is talking about month, and that month is connected to moon, which I do believe it is, or as they would call it, the new moon, or the new month, or the month, right? It is a new moon. It is also a renewed moon, but it is, but as we would call it now in our language today, we would call it month or moonth. That's where the word month comes from. The month. Okay. So, and so here we have Ba Chodesh, which is the same as saying Ba Chadash. Now, this word Brit Chadasha, Brit Chadash, there's that word new, or Chadash, to renew. So Brit is covenant. Chadasha, Chadash is basically the Brit covenant renewed, or the covenant new, the new covenant or the renewed covenant. And, I would say it's both. It is new and it also is renewed, but it is technically the second covenant, as Hebrews chapter 7, 8, and 9 say. So there's the first covenant we call the Mosaic covenant, and then the second covenant we call, the Messianic covenant. There's more than just two covenants, but talking about these two covenants is what he's referring to. The first mediator, Moses, and the second mediator, Hamashiach, or Messiah, Yahushua Hamashiach, or Jesus Christ in the common tongue. So that gives us understanding that this word month is connected to renew or rebuild, or to make new. Now since in my understanding, so we'll just keep this as the constant, even though some might think it's a variable and might contest this point. Just bear with me on this if you don't mind. So here we have the word moon. If it is connected, if Chodesh is connected to the word moon, then is it talking about rebuilding the whole moon? Is it talking about rebuilding or having a new moon or a renewed moon? Or what is it talking about on the moon? Well, there is something on the moon that we see that changes every day, and that is in a cycle about every 29.53 plus or minus, depending on the cycle of the year that it is. What is it that changes? Well, it is the light. So if you want Nathaniel Stone's literal translation of the word Chodesh here in Psalms 81:3, what I would say here is that this would be at. So since that is ba, this would be at, on, or in. I would use the word at, and I would say at the restoring light, because it's the light of the moon that changes. So you'd say at the restoring light of the new moon, or of the moon. So at the restoring light of the moon. Now the word moon is not there and the word light is not there, but it is implied. It is implied once you understand that Chodesh is connected with moon and that Chodesh's cycle, the monthly cycle, is connected with the light. Therefore, the word light and the word moon are not there, but are implied through logical reasoning. And other scriptures, that I'm not going to get into a deeper study. I'm already kind of a little bit deeper into this that I wanted to share, but it's great here to learn. So here we have this word at the renewing light of the moon. So again, light and moon is not there, but if you want maybe a more literal translation, you could just say at the new moon or at the new month. If you want to get, keep it short. But if you want to get a literal translation, you'd say at the renewing light of the moon. Now here you have the word shofar. So they have it translated as trumpet. I would say definitely not. It's ram's horn for sure. Shofar is ram's horn. No contestation there. And then here we have kasa. Now this is where the issue comes from. Now again, this word moon is not there. And this word full, I believe, is completely incorrect. This is where and I'll explain, this is the symptom of the problem, but the root of the problem is right here. And the root of the problem here is on day, or at the full moon on day. And it's not on because lamed is not on. This lamed is the picture of a shepherd's staff, and that means walking or leading into the day. So the word for day that they have here is yod wa mem. So that would be yom. That's where you get the word yom. You can see here yom, but you see here it's la yom. So where is it? Is it on the day? No. It should say. Let me back up that. It should say leading into the day. It shouldn't say on the day. It should say leading into the day. Now here's the root word for this is chag. That's the root word. Chag, and now there are only 3 chag. That's the word for feast. Deuteronomy 16:16. There are only 3 chag per year that you have. So our solemn feast. Okay, so the root word here for chag is feast. Now those that are the scripturally astute that translated this verse, they see the word chag here, and so because they know that the word chag is here, that it is connected to certain points of the calendar, and since the center chag is Shabuot, which is connected to the weekly Sabbath, which changes every year since it's connected to the weekly Sabbath, and the weekly Sabbath doesn't fall evenly every year. That's why sometimes you'll have Passover on a Friday, or you'll have Passover on a Wednesday, or Passover on a Tuesday, is because the Sabbath is different every year, and it's not the same in the monthly cycle. So the center chag is not connected with a moon cycle at all. And it's not connected at all with this moon cycle. So by definition, this chag has to be connected either into the Passover or matzah, chag matzot, Chag Pesach. They use that word for both of them because Chag Pesach is the first day of Chag Matzot, the first day of unleavened bread, and that first day of unleavened bread is the beginning of that Chag that is on that, and that is connected to month 1, day 15. You slaughter the lamb at the evening of the 14th, and then that leads into the 15th. So even though Chag Pesach is slaughtering the lamb, when it is eaten, it is nightfall. That is, it was nighttime. It was about midnight when the angel of death went over Egypt, and that cries were heard all throughout the land. That's an Exodus study. We can do it at a later point in time, but still, that's month 1, day 15. Now that is connected to a moon cycle. What other one is connected to a moon cycle? Well, month 7, day 15, Chag Sukkot, the week of tabernacling, the festival of tabernacles that is there. So they believe that since this is just basic Ba Chodesh, but then this word here, kasa, that's why they think it's full moon, because it's the 15th of the cycle. And they say that, that the moon starts, at a new moon or at a crescent moon. So 15 days into the cycle is a full moon. So this word keseh has to be full moon because it's got to be talking about one of those two chag, Pesach, Matzah, one of those two. We'll just call it Matzah to keep it simple. Well, we'll call it Passover, the first day of Passover, or the day of Passover, the first day of unleavened bread, Chag Pesach. So it's either talking about month 1, day 15, or month 7, day 15. So because it has to be talking about 1:15 or 7:15, this word keseh has to be full moon, or this word keseh is just full, and the word moon is implied, similar to how they would put the word moon here is implied also. So at the time of the new moon, it would be more like at the time of the new month. Now, if like I said, Nathaniel Stone's literal translation, it would be at the renewing light of the month, or the renewing light of the moon, which is the month, right? So so this word here, keseh, let me come back down here to more of a full screen here. Now let's take a look at this word keseh. Now, this word keseh, as we have here in Psalms, it is Kaf Samech He. That is what we see here as highlighted. Kaf Samech He. Now, it's only found in one other spot, Kaf Samech Ayin. Aleph, excuse me, Kaf Samech Aleph. And then you would have that. So they have here, and they've translated that as at full moon in both spots, and they have this here in 3677 keseh that they have. Now let's look at now I want you to remember this word right here, kaf samech he, that they have. Now let's look at this word, and we're going to go to 3680, and we have the word kasah. And what is the word that you have here? Different vowel nakud points. Kaf samech he, and it means to cover. So, and you have like closed twice, covers 20 times, conceals 8 times, cover translated 50 times, as is found covered 51 times, and then overwhelmed or hidden, concealed, right? Conceals. Made a covering, some version of hide, hidden, covering, concealed, made a covering, closed, right? That is there, which all is there. Let me find a couple points here. So, talking about the flood and all, right, everything under the heavens were covered, talking about the flood, and the mountains were covered, talking about the flood. Now here's Noah's 2 sons. They walked backwards and kasah, the nakedness of their father. Here is Rachel on her donkey, and she sees Isaac in the field, and she jumps off her donkey, and she covers her veil, right, with her face, and then she covers herself. She kasah herself. That is there. So so we have that word kasah that is found 100. Well, I didn't point that out. Let me point this out. 152 times. You see it here, kasah is 152 times, but this word keseh, which is only found twice, is the word full. But it's the same word, kasah, keseh. It's the same word. So when we have this word keseh, let me pull this up full in the larger screen. You have the word keseh, which is kaf samech he. Why do they have the word full there? Well, they have the word full there because the word feast is there, and they know that blowing the trumpet on a feast day is 1:15 or 7:15. And there's no mention of blowing a shofar on the Chodesh, on the renewed moon day. There's no command of that, but there is blowing shofars on these 2 feast days. So because it's on the 2 feast days, they went ahead and changed the vowel point word, gave it its own Strong's number and its own nakud vowel pointing, so that they could alter the text to make it a different word, to make it look like it's the word full, even though 152 witnesses says that it's the word cover. However, what is the problem? That is the symptom. What is the cause? The cause is one little mistranslated, in my opinion, mistranslated word, a letter in Hebrew, lamed, which should be leading into the day. So it's leading into the day of our solemn feast. So if you want to translate this correct, as I've come to understand it, it's blow. Now, tiku b'chodesh, blow. In Hebrew, sometimes, the red ball or the ball red, they sometimes put the descriptive term before what you do. So you would say blow the shofar, but in Hebrew it would say blow tiku b'chodesh shofar, when in English we would say tiku shofar b'chodesh. I mean, if we were going to translate those words. So let's do that in English. Blow the shofar at the renewing light of the moon, at the covered moon, at the kasa, on the day of covering, on the day that leads into our solemn feast. Now this isn't connected with Chag. It's connected with either Yom Teruah, month 7, day 1, to blow the shofar on Yom Teruah, or it's connected into the new year, Abib 1 or Aviv 1, month 1, day 1, and to blow the shofar on that, which we do find commands on that. So we see here with a little studying, a little research, we see that the Strong's number system actually can kind of get a little bit misleading, and this is where studying to show thyself approved. Now this is the moon key, and in the moon key, the B'chodesh, the renewing light of the moon, and B'kasa, the day of covering, is actually the same moment in time. Is they try to say that the crescent moon is when the month begins, and I can respectfully disagree with that, because we don't walk by sight, we walk by faith, and we start our fleshly life here in darkness and then build into light. And this is patterns that we see, but not maybe the strongest points that are there. But I think a strong point is this verse here in the moon key, is it says that B'chodesh, the day of renewing of the month, which is the light of the month, and then also the day of covering, B'kasa, is the same day. Now, has anyone seen, I mean, you shouldn't go look at it with a naked eye, but has anyone seen a solar eclipse or knows what a solar eclipse is? Well, in a solar eclipse, when the moon passes in front of the sun, you get this ring around this aurora that you see that around the moon. As the moon, what you're in is you're basically in the shadow that the moon casts, and then when the moon comes into a position, you get that they call it the path of totality. It only lasts for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then after that period of time is done, they come out of alignment. They call it a conjunction, the lunar conjunction. A solar eclipse can only happen on a lunar conjunction. Conversely, a lunar eclipse can only happen on what we would call a solar conjunction. So you have a lunar or a solar conjunction, and so a solar eclipse is when it is sun, moon, earth, and then a lunar eclipse is when it is sun, earth, moon, and when the shadow of the earth passes in front of the moon versus the shadow of the moon casting its shadow on earth. Now, when you're in the path of totality, it only lasts about 3 to 5 minutes that is there, And then as soon as that 3 to 5 minutes is over, the alignment is no more there, and you get like what they call the diamond, the wedding ring. It's a ring with like a little blip of light on the side. Well, that right there is Bachodesh. That is the renewing light of the moon. So if you want to get technical, the people that say they have to spot a crescent moon in order to count the new month, well, the hypocrisy that I find in it is, what about a solar eclipse day? On a solar eclipse day, on a day that you can actually see a solar eclipse, what about then? Because you can see when the light begins to renew at that point in time. So you have the cycle of the moon. You have waxing to full and then waning to empty. Wax to full, wane to empty. Wax on, wane off. Right. So you have waxing to full, waning to empty. Well, as it's waning to empty, on the path of totality, on certain special points of time, on solar eclipses, you get to see the last moments of the waning light. Then you see it come into full conjunction alignment, which would be sun, moon, earth, and then you get that path of totality, that total darkness that is there for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then it comes just out of alignment a little bit, and you see that little blip of light that's there. Well, that's the renewing light of the moon. That's Bachodesh. Now, what's interesting is Bachasa on the day of covering in Psalms 81:3, when it's translated properly, according to my understanding, Bachasa, the day of covering, and Bachodesh, the you could say the day of the renewing light of the moon, is only it's half of 3 to 5 minutes. Since it's total darkness for 3 to 5 minutes, you could say that the covering and the renewing light happens at that blip in time, just seconds apart. Yahuwah is big on lines of demarcation. When one thing ends and the other thing begins, he wants distinct demarcation lines. When the sun is down, you don't see it, then the sun is set, right? When the sun reaches its highest point in the day and then starts to come down, right? That would be high noon. The azimuth is the path, the arch that the sun travels through the day, and you can measure this with simple tools. And then when it reaches the highest point in the day and it starts to come down for that particular day, that's called the zenith. That is a measurable point. That is when it transitions from one point to the other. And so you have a same thing here with the day of covering. When the moon is fully covered, when it's waning, and then it's covered for that few minutes, and then as soon as that blip of light appears on the other side, a few minutes, just seconds after the day of covering, it literally demarks, it marks when the covering ends and the Chodesh, the renewing, begins. That waning begins when you can see it, and you can see it on special days, on solar eclipse days. So my thing is, the hypocrisy that I see, if you have to see a crescent moon in order to count that day one of the month, what about solar eclipse days? Because you can see the renewing light on a solar eclipse day, and if you're waiting to after the solar eclipse and you see that light happen, the difference between from that conjunction point in time, that Bachasa, that moment of covering, and then Bachodesh, the moment of renewing light, the difference between that renewing light and the crescent moon that can be visibly spotted by the naked eye after is sometimes between 18 to 72 hours after. You're talking nearly a full day to nearly 3 days of a lag time that is there after the light begins to renew. Now, those of us that are trained in some level of basic astronomy, not astrology, but astronomy, the studying of the stars on like the scientific understanding, people that have even a basic level of understand that happens every single month, whether you see it or not. It happens every single month. Again, whether you see it or not. So we don't need to see it to believe it. Blessed are those who believe and don't see. We don't walk by sight, but we walk by faith. I have understanding, concrete faith that when it's that dark moon, that it's going to restore. But anyways, that's the moon key. I wanted to share with you some scriptural tools to be able to study and to go deeper. So now that you're aware of these things, I hope these things help you in your own personal study. Use those parallel scriptures. Use many different scripture translations that are there. It really, really helps you to get deeper into the word and to see it like a gemstone that has many different facets. And sometimes the facets aren't cut properly. And this is where iron sharpening iron, and we can properly facet those gemstones to make sure that they are nice and brilliant when we give that as its kabod, as its glory to the Father in our sacrifice, that we've sacrificed our time to get to understand his ways more and to weed out the traditions of man and to get closer into actually what the word says. So with that, I want to thank you. We'll go ahead and we'll close off with the final segment that I do here. Don't cast pearls before swine. Now, you are not swine, so this is why I pull a pearl out and don't mind casting it before you. So, what are we going to go for today? Well, let me get on scripture. What pearl do I want to share here? Let's go to Jeremiah 8, chapter 8, verse 8. 8. Here it is. How can you say we are wise and the law of the Lord is with us? But behold, the lying pen of the scribes has made it into a lie. Or as King James says, how do ye say we are wise and the law of the Lord is with us? Lo, certainly in vain the pen of the scribe is in vain. Let's take a look at what that says in ISR. How do you say we are wise and the Torah, the law of Yahuwah, is with us? But look, the false pen of the scribe has worked falsehood. So we're talking about the lying pen of the scribe works falsehood. It's showing us that these words have been changed somewhat, but the Father allows it to happen. And as we do digging, as we do research, we're able to come to the truth of matters. So with that, I remind you to guard your heart, guard your soul, guard Torah, or pay the toll.